Well, I figure I might as well just turn that off now then. Yeah. I haven't done one of these in a while, and about half an hour before I started, my interface wasn't working, so I'm gonna need some form of confirmation in the chat that this is indeed actually, well, good. Ultimately, hello. I can see Ali's in the chat. Hey, how's things in Madonia? I can't remember now if that's a reference to something. But hello. Ooh, there's a KL. Hola. Hello. Forgive the lo-fi appearance. I am audible. That'll do. I'll take audible. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, sorry about the lo-fi appearance as well, I guess is the term. It is very warm in the UK right now. Right now the temperature is 26 degrees and I've got a light on me. I've also got a fan on me, but yeah, it was warm and I did not really intend on adding more layers to this. Yeah, I'll just leave things going for a bit, just get things going. But this is a Q&A, or ask me anything, within reason, of course. Well, I mean, you can ask me anything as to whether I'll answer it or not is a different matter. But yeah, if you get some questions and all of that coming through, then we can do some stuff. Lo-fi is best fi. I absolutely agree with that sometimes. There are some things you want to put in an element of quality and production value and all of that, but when sometimes when you're having a live stream and all of that, you just want something simple. You want something that works, and you want to just be comfortable. And to be fair, I am currently warm, so comfortableness, comfiness, that's the word, isn't entirely, at peak, but it is there somewhere. But yeah, I'm just gonna do some form of sharing of this, I guess. Is that something I'm supposed to do these days? I don't know anymore. But yeah, Ali, I have a fan in my face and I'm still sweating. Same, my fan's over there though. But yeah, 1 second. How is everybody doing? How's the summer September? September? No, I can't come up with a pun for that. Are you having the best September so far, 6 days in? That's been shared. I do have some conversation topics, I guess, to keep things rolling, but yeah, I do want this to be very interactive, I guess the term is, led by yourselves if you want me to lead it that way. Yeah, I think I've got everything working now. Of course, you've said that you can hear me. We are definitely in mono, as opposed to my 10-hour live stream I did, that was entirely in stereo but only on one side. Yeah. Participants. This is also one of the first live streams I've done using some extra software, actually. At least on this channel. But yeah, it just gives me a bit more customization and stuff, and I can do things like, I can put on a holding screen, for example, and just keep talking over it, or I can turn it off. And it's just those little things that are rather fun. But yeah, I think right now it's currently just the three of us. So yeah, how are you two doing? How are things in the world of people that care about my content for some reason? It always baffles me when people keep coming back, particularly when, for the last few years, I've been rather quiet, rather unproductive, and rather, what's that button do? Yeah. I'm going to watch Jurassic Park tonight in the cinema. The greatest movie of all time. I have, of course, seen it. But they are doing a 30th anniversary screening amongst a load of cinemas. And it's always been a bucket list item for me to go and watch Jurassic Park in the cinema. But every time it's been a thing in the last few years, at the very least, I've always been unavailable. I once found out that Jurassic Park was at my local cinema the day that it was on, but at that time I had about £2 in my bank account, and I'm pretty sure we all know that is not how that's not an affordable amount of cinema money. But that's because the cinema is expensive. But you are ultimately paying for an event. You're paying to watch a movie in an event space. It should have an event style price, but it should also be affordable. Ooh, Ali lost Wi-Fi, but they are back now. We'll take that. Hello, welcome back. I've just been jabbering on to myself generally, and asking how other people are doing and why people keep coming back to my sporadic uploading destination that is my YouTube channel. Whilst we wait for some people. Hell, I'm just chilling and got a shot of energy in the last 2 weeks, so I'm catching up on chores that piled up from over 5 years. That is quite the to-do list. That's a to-do list longer than, I think in a similar vein, when I finished the first season of a week ago, which would have been 2019, there was a big list of videos down this side of the screen, and I think I've made 4 of those, if that. So yeah, I'm also trying to catch up on, not necessarily chores, but tasks that I set myself several years ago and just haven't. But yeah, the reason as to why this is happening tonight is because I've wanted to be doing live streaming for a while. I enjoyed it a lot when I was doing it in the last run, obviously Monday Night Ruubez, and I've called this Wednesday Night Ruubez. There is no particular night of Ruubez. I think the plan would be for it to be a bit more sporadic than it was previously, only doing it one day a week and always having that set day just kind of meant that I always had to keep Monday free, but if something was on, I couldn't then, if something was on, I couldn't then stream. So yeah, I think this one's Wednesday night Ruubez, because I have this hour of time before I'm off to go and watch Jurassic Park later. I might have said that whilst you were gone, Ali. But yeah, I'm off to go and watch Jurassic Park, so this is on until 7. 7 o'clock is my deadline. And there's a reason for that. But, what was I saying? Yeah, so last night, well, no, before that, I was saying I've wanted to be doing live streaming, ever since I basically stopped doing live streaming. Yeah, I've wanted to be doing live streaming, and I've always just kind of been pushing it off, because, I've constantly terrified that no one's going to be here. I'm constantly terrified that I'm going to upload a video and no one's going to care. I'm gonna put effort into something and it's not gonna get anything. And for me, that kind of pressure is so paralyzing that it just stops me from doing anything. But last night I decided that I was gonna do a live stream today. So I scheduled it so that I would have no choice not to do it, because at that point I'd already told people that I was going to be doing a live stream. And here we are. Maybe that's what I just need to do. I need to force No, because that's not how you end up having good situations. But, I've at least forced myself through the door. I'm now in the room of live streaming, and all of that jazz. But yeah. Ali, your vids are always good. Miss Vlogmas, it was fun. It was fun. That last season, I wasn't entirely in the best of places. And I don't know if that came across in the content, aside from like what I was saying in the content itself. I've always... Oh, and KL Vlogmas was indeed an amazing series. Yeah, it was obviously stolen from other people. Everyone was doing Vlogmas, but... yeah, I really enjoyed, being able to document my experiences, my life. I mean, it's why I did a week ago. It's why I did Vlogmas, Vida, any sort of vlogging opportunities whenever I was doing something. But, the last Vlogmas series was sort of when I was reaching that point of sort of my own content fatigue. I was also not entirely in the best of places, I just started a new job, which was fine, but the previous place of employment I left with some very bad mental health states states plural maybe, yeah, and that just kind of lingered a bit for the next few weeks, months, years. Yeah, I'm still, I'm on an upwards trajectory at the very least, but there's a lot of things that, do keep popping up every now and then, as I'm sure we're all familiar with. But yeah, that Vlogmas series, by the end of it, I just wasn't enjoying doing it by the end of the series, and then I ultimately decided it was better for me to experience Christmas without a camera in my face for the first time in a while. How is the new job going? The new job that I've had since December 2020 is going really well. I've already had a promotion in that time. More because there was availability of roles, but I enjoy it a lot. I work with some really cool people, and I get to work in, like, I'm not working necessarily in the industry that I want to be in. I'm working for a public sector organisation, but I am like adjacent to it. I'm in a comms team. I work with digital services. I get to edit videos, make graphics. look at some really cool sort of processes and how that works. I have to do social media stuff, which when you've sort of fallen out of love with the idea of social media, we can get to that later if people want. But yeah, when you've kind of fallen out of love with the idea of social media and how it works, and you become so aware of how these platforms operate, the behaviors they instill, like that being your job, like is one of the less positive things. But yeah, at the flip side, I get to work with social media. I get to work from this desk most of the time, and yeah, I get to work with cameras and microphones and all of that, and I get to try and figure out how to do live streams and stuff, which I mean, from how this one started, you'd wonder if I'd actually done anything, but experience and all of that. I'll tell you what, I might turn off slow mode. I know it's set to once every 15 seconds, but I think if I turn it off, can I turn it off? Let's see. Customization, there we go. Let's just turn it off for now. No spamming the chat, but do of course. This is a Q&A AMA. The more questions we've got, the more content we've got. Because I do have some sort of movies to discuss, but of course that's spoiler content. So I would, preface that with a warning. But ultimately, is that still working? That's still working, yeah. Never liked social media. Proud to say that I've never had a Facebook account or Twitter. What a platform. Talk about a good idea that went horribly wrong. Yeah, I think partly one of my biggest problems with social media is it's social media. It's supposed to be social, and it's kind of stopped being social media. It's only ever I mean, I guess this happens with everything, but it became about business, it became about money, it became about clout. But I imagine that's also just going to happen in any form of social circle that you end up in. But yeah, I mean, right now, I was saying this yesterday actually at work. Right now, I wouldn't recommend anybody ever join social media. I wouldn't tell someone to get Facebook. I wouldn't tell someone to join formerly known as Twitter. I don't think that they are helpful or good as platforms. And I think if I could go back, I probably wouldn't join them, but then I also probably wouldn't be in the positions that I've got to today, because it's by being on these platforms and learning how things work, that's actually made me that's actually made me where I am today. KL, I get that social media is quite the beast. That's why I stopped Twitch as a user. I never streamed. There we go. There's a symbol covering up the I in your message. Although I guess I could have just looked at my phone, because that also has the same set of that also has the same stuff. Yeah, what's everyone drinking tonight in these warm temperatures? This is Iron Brew, the best soft drink, and I will fight anyone over that. the best soft drink. However, there are only two good variations of Iron Brew. There is Iron Brew, so the standard one, and there is Iron Brew 1901, I think the number is, which is like sort of closer to. I think it is the original recipe, but it is only available like in Scotland unless they've changed that. But my partner was in Scotland the other week and came back with 4 bottles of it for me, and they lasted, I think, 3 days. No, they lasted 4 days. I made sure to only drink 1 bottle a day, but 1 bottle of Iron Brew in its original recipe is a lot of Iron Brew. But yeah, the entire so diet Iron Brew, can get in the bin. The whole point of Iron Brew is the sugar. Iron Brew Extra, I think it's called, so like the Pepsi Max variation. It's not the worst. It's definitely not diet Iron Brew, but it is. It's not the worst. I actually think I finished it earlier. Yeah, I bought a bottle yesterday. Because they've started putting Iron Brew in the work vending machines. However, they've only got Diet Iron Brew and Iron Brew Extra, which is kind of frustrating. But I can back up these claims about the order because I've had all 4 of them recently. And I had the 2 worst ones yesterday. So yeah, what was I saying earlier? About videos and stuff like that. Yeah, I started making a list of videos I still want to make and have ideas to make and all of that jazz. And then that was when I, very much decided, hey, I'm just gonna do a live stream tonight and let's see how that goes. Let's see if people still care. And here you are. Where is my notes app? That's fancy. Lol, might work only have tea or coffee. Yeah, I mean we have a sort of coffee machine, but it's kind of awful. And I mean, like, my workplace give free dairy milk, as in, milk from cows, out to employees. But they don't give out free non-dairy milk. So if I want to get a coffee at work, I've got to go out and get it somewhere or have it black. And I am not the biggest fan of black coffee. But yeah, they added the vending machines and then they added a card machine to the vending machines, and that's the biggest problem because I tend not to carry cash. So that was my excuse previously, but now that the vending machines are like available to me, I can't stop. Ultimately, I mean, I can stop. I do have the ability to choose to not, buy something from them. But yeah. I was drinking tea. Boring. But yeah, can you go wrong with Iron Brew? They used to say in the advert back in the 80s, made in Scotland from girders, but had to stop because they said it was false advertising. Yeah, it is one of those things. It's like the false advertising as a term, like, is obviously very important, but it does kind of downplay the creativity that you can get, or the stuff like that just makes advertisements a bit more fun. Because I think theoretically you could look at this and think, yeah, that's been made by leaving some steel girders to rust in some water and then adding some bubbles to it. My friends at uni used to joke that the reason as to why my hair was ginger was because I drank so much Iron Brew. But I guess that would also be false advertising, wouldn't it? Jasmina, hi. You've missed these. So have I, apparently. I mean, I say apparently. I have missed these. But it's great to have you back. As I've said a few times, this is a Q&A. Ask me anything. I reserve my right to answer. But yeah, how's things going? If this, if people enjoy this and stuff, like, there might be more again. I don't know. I hope so. I mean, like I said earlier, the reason as to why this one's happening is because I forced myself to do it at about 10 o'clock last night. I was like, I want to do a live stream. I've got an hour tomorrow before I go and watch Jurassic Park. I am going to do a live stream. And here I am. George is in the chat. As someone who switched to almond milk for their tea coffee recently, it does suck that your workplace only does free cow's milk. I agree, it does suck. And I've suggested it before. So hopefully I can bring about some change, as I've always tried to do with my entire life. But yeah, also hi, good to see you've not melted with the heat this week. Well, not yet at the very least. I think because it's been rather cloudy today, it's probably going to be a bit of a muggy night. So I might not survive to tomorrow. I might be a puddle when I wake up, and then have to like slide down the stairs to start working at this chair tomorrow. Yeah. Ali needs 2 secs. 1, 2. Have you dealt with it yet? How's work? Still working media. Yasmin has been good. I got a job in my dream field, so I'm doing well. Hey, congratulations on getting a job in your dream field. That is fantastic. I did just have a bit of a talk about work, but I'm still working in digital communications in the public sector. I do like the fact that I work for a company who fundamentally exists to help people. I don't think I would enjoy, a 9-to-5 office job doing a similar thing for a company that purely exists to make money, for example, because there's a lot of those. But it does certainly suit my sort of, beliefs and stuff and lifestyles within reason, that I work for an organisation that exists to help people and provide a service. Hasn't been cloudy in London. You've been struggling, Yasmina. Yeah, the city's always going to be worse generally. Yeah. Yeah, I hope that we all stop struggling in the heat soon. I'd quite like to move back into my bedroom, to be honest, because we're in an attic, and that is the hottest place on earth, or at least it feels like it during the summer months. So, yeah, it'd be nice to start using my living room as a living room again, rather than a cooler version of a bedroom, and not cool in the sort of... I mean, it does have a big TV and all of that, but still... Robot writes, I like Highlands water. Highlands water? Scottish water? Or is that what Iron Brew is jokingly referred to? Let's have a look. What is Highland water? Ah, Highland Spring. I see what you mean. I haven't seen a bottle like that in a while. Working for a company that exists to help is so much more rewarding. Absolutely. And, it just kind of makes me feel a little bit better and a little bit more, when you're having one of those days when, everything is piling up and you're just constantly working and it feels like there's nothing you can do to stop it. But at the end of the day, I know I'm in communications, but, the organisation itself, yeah, I'm part of something that fundamentally exists for the better. Scottish water is probably whiskey. No comment. But also potentially yes. Probably. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so the video list, as I've called it last night, which definitely needs more videos on it. I've talked a lot about wanting to be making more content, but also feeling sad that I'm not making content. But then, I realized ultimately I am making content this year. I've made a lot of content with at least someone in the chat. Obviously, I do Grid Talk, my F1 podcast, with a great bunch of people. And we've been, doing a lot this year. There's been a lot of F1 to do, and there've been weekends where we've done 5 podcasts in the space of 3 days, as a team. But we even did a live podcast back in Manchester, which was so cool. And I'm hoping to do, as in an in-person podcast, I'm hoping to finally get one organised towards the end of the year, because there are talks ongoing at the minute about that. But at least on one side, those talks have stalled a bit, which is kind of annoying. Here's me now. I wonder if people who live in way hotter countries than the UK think we're ridiculous for breaking down over these temperatures. Yeah, I mean, it's said a lot, there are countries that exist at this temperature all year, and they're fine. And I don't know if it's, there's an element of, adapting to that temperature being the norm. But also, British buildings are designed to trap heat because it's supposed to be a cold country, for most of the year. So, and these other countries have got air conditioning in pretty much every building. It's, we do break down over these high temperatures, and I, for one, definitely function a lot worse in, above 20 degrees generally. But yeah, we don't have buildings designed for these hot temperatures that we are experiencing. And I wonder how that is going to change over that. I wonder if it's going to bring about change in the next few years, to be honest, with, the average temperature rising quite dramatically. At some point, do the people in charge have to step in and make it so that, make it so that, the buildings in this country, are suitable for people to live in the temperatures that we now seem to be living in. But yeah, George, just in the chat, we've been busy with the F1 for sure, can't judge you for that. I'd love to start my personal podcast back up again, but don't have the time. It happens. Yeah, I mean, if that is the GH podcast that I once appeared on many, many years ago, I'd love to hear that again. But yeah, I mean, my point ultimately was, it's not that I've not been making content. I've just not been making content for, this channel, for Fresh from the Scene. I think I made 1 episode this year, which, to be fair, was an interview with a former member of one of my favourite bands. Just ticking them off the list. I've done 2 of them now. But, yeah, it's not that... What's the term that I'm thinking of? All of a sudden, every word that's ever existed has just flown out of my head. But yeah, the point is, I've been berating myself for not being creative and productive, but the fact is, I have, just not on, Ruubez channels. It's been on other channels. But the changes that we've been able to do, and stuff going on behind the scenes, it's cool where we've got Grid Talk too, and all of that. It's really cool. Robot Rides, I can't cope with these temperatures. Yeah, me neither. I'm going to the cinema tonight, and I really hope that they've had the AC on, because when I went to go and see Barbenheimer a few weeks ago, and Oppenheimer we did first, as you should do. There is no way that you do Barbie first. Yeah, so we did Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was fine. And then we did Barbie after a break. And you could tell that people had only really just left that showing because it was quite humid in there. It was quite sweaty. And that wasn't even the warmest of days. So hopefully tonight, after a whole day's worth of cinema, this 30th anniversary screening of Jurassic Park is quite cool. In more ways than one. Yep, GH podcast. I knew it would be. It's always GH, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, if it comes back, absolutely, I'd love to be on. How's Beth? I hope she's well. Yeah, Beth, former housemate now. She's moved out, got a house, got a cat. I'm jealous of one of those more. And it is the cat. But yeah, she's doing very well. We were round at their new place, and I say new place, they moved out last year now. We were around last week watching All In, the AEW pay-per-view that took place at Wembley, and yeah, it was really cool. Ali, I've got Celtic and Nordic blood. I don't cope well in hot weather. Roll on winter. Yeah, I mean, for me, kind of like, I think autumn's probably the best one that suits me most, because it's just, the temperature's basically, getting down to a more functional temperature. It's not, 0 degrees outside. I'm not having trains cancelled left, right and centre from snow, all of that jazz. But yeah, I think autumn is probably, the season that I would say is probably my favourite. But yeah, I've just been rattling on for a bit now. Does anyone have a question that they want to get in the chat? A question that's going to give something other than just, the next random thought that pops into my brain whilst I try and keep momentum with this, and obviously try and, try and present ultimately. Yeah, when it came to the last 5 minutes before this, I was just kind of sat very much, nervous that no one was going to show up. I've already said that, but nervous that I wasn't going to be able to do this. I wasn't going to be able to keep going for the whole time, because, an hour of just talking is a long time. But I think what I do want to do with future live streams as well, if I can, is, have a bit more going on. Like I say, I'm using Streamlabs to do this, which means that, I should theoretically be able to, capture footage and stuff of things to do, things that I'm playing, all that. But yeah, doesn't take snow to cancel trains in the UK. Can't believe the strikes are still going on. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what happens when two people don't want to, two parties don't generally want to, speak with each other, or at least one party doesn't want to speak to the other party, and feels that they're being unreasonable. But trains do get cancelled so easily. It's awful. There was a news story the other day that said that Huddersfield is one of the worst train, Huddersfield is one of the worst train services for cancellations, and believe me, I've got stranded in Leeds and Manchester just because they've decided to cancel every train for the rest of the night. But yeah, Ali, love Halloween. What movies do you like watching when it comes around? So I'm a massive wimp. and don't like horror movies, and Halloween has never really been something that I've vibed with ultimately. I've never quite understood the hype of Nightmare Before Christmas, which it bothers. It's a Halloween and a Christmas movie, but ultimately, The Nightmare Before Christmas is a Christmas movie. It's about it's about understanding the meaning of Christmas. It takes place at Christmas, and all of that other stuff that it does. But I mean, Halloween. Whatever movie's on, really, I guess. Or whatever movie I fancy watching around Halloween. I mean, in terms of movies I've watched recently, as opposed to Halloween in general, I guess, watched a few recently. Like, I watched Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, as it was known the whole time up until its actual release. I believe the studio decided to change it because people thought that Edge of Tomorrow and Live, Die, Repeat were separate movies, but one was just the tagline. We watched that. That was a rather cool take on the time loop whole thing. And, it was interesting, I think, the way that they did it. What else have I watched? There's been... Oh, no. I've just remembered. I watched the Meg 2, The Trench, which... yeah. I knew what I was getting into. I knew what I was getting into with the Meg 2. Because, for a start, I, had watched the trailers, and watched the first movie, and knew that because of the way that the first movie made money, by, tapping into the Chinese market and all of that, and just kind of abandoning the entire book that it's based off, despite assurances from, the author that there would be more elements of the book brought into the sequel, other than just its name, that... I had to... Yeah. The Meg 2 bothers me so much because there is a good version of Meg the Trench, or as it's actually called, The Trench. There is a good version of that exists, and it's the book, and all they really would have had to do to make it work was follow the book, ultimately. There's a few elements. I mean, we're talking about a book series that started in the 90s. So, there'd be some elements you'd have to update, and there's some things that wouldn't even make sense. I mean, I seem to remember Osama bin Laden being named in at least 2 of the books, as someone who was still alive, and of course, that's not the case anymore. But yeah, I waited 10 years for the first Meg movie, and it was... I mean, it was a switch your brain off shark movie, ultimately, with Jason Statham. But, I knew that the sequel was going to be more down that road. And it was. But it just... Yeah. It could have been so much better. And it made no sense. And as the Screen Rant pitch meeting video basically pointed out, it made some absolute nonsense statements in terms of, deep sea diving, for example. I mean, they didn't know that, Ocean Gate was going to happen. They didn't know that Ocean Gate was going to become the thing that everyone talked about for the space of 2 days. Shortly before, they released a movie where Jason Statham survives so far down under the water that he would implode immediately but he survives it by just pushing the air out of his nostrils. You know, and then a few months before that, like at a shallower depth, a submarine implodes, and everyone's talking about deep sea pressures and all of that. They couldn't have known that was going to happen, but at the same time, that's no excuse for, making up science ultimately. But yeah, no idea it was based on a book. No one's ever got any idea. No one's got any idea that The Meg was based on a book. It's one of my favourite book series, Meg by The Trench. It's, I think, 6 or 7 books now. So what have we got? We've got Meg, a novel of deep terror. We've got The Trench. We've got Meg Primal Waters. We've got Meg Hell's Aquarium. Meg Night Stalkers. Meg Generations. And I think there's another one, or Meg Generations is the next one. But regardless, yeah, there's a lot of books for them to go off, and they did, well, nothing. But I think it's fair to say, because these movies make so much money, particularly on the global market, we're gonna get another one. But yeah, George, I like Jason Statham, but the Meg films scream of a classic paycheck film like Michael Caine in Jaws 4. Yeah, I mean, put Michael Caine in those movies, and let's see how it works. I don't think it would have the same audience appeal, especially these days, I reckon. But Michael Caine in Jaws 4, put him in the Meg, and you'd probably have a better time. I can't even say that sentence. It's too funny. But yeah, Ali, I have to check those books out now. I mean, yeah, I will, say they are ultimately like a shark book, but I do think the first one got rewritten, like for its 20th anniversary. I think it probably it corrected a few like wrongs in terms of like the descriptions of female characters in the original one, which was his first book. Like, there's a lot less, just only describing women as, their features. But yeah, I think, they are a good read. They're a good read that actually makes a lot more sense than the movies as well. And the science, to be fair, they do try and... There's a lot of, understanding of how, like, deep-sea diving works. And you can quite tell that, research went into how they were doing... Well, how Steve Alton was, planning how certain scenes and stuff would work. But yeah, we are in the last 10 minutes of this stream, I will say right now. So, taking final questions, because I do have a 7 p.m. deadline. So, any question, let's get it in the chat. But yeah, otherwise I'll just start ranting about the Meg again. And I've ranted about the Meg more than I've ranted about the Lion King 2019. And anyone who knows me knows I hate the Disney remake of the Lion King. God knows what it's going to be like when we get this next one, because we are going to get the next one. Ali, what's happening on the music front? Are you going to do more covers on your channel and take requests? So, Yeah, I mean, I did that McFly one a few weeks ago. Land of the Bees from their newest album, Power to Play, which is like my most listened to album of this year, which will surprise nobody. It was a McFly album released in 2023 that was very prominent guitar based and, influenced by Queen, Rush, um, a lot of 80s hair metal and glam and stuff like that. And yeah, it got me very much back into, doing music stuff again. I had kind of left my guitars lying around, literally gathering dust. And then, listening to a very listening to a very guitar driven record from a band that, inspired me to start playing music in the first place. So I've been getting some, music ideas written down, recorded, and stuff like that. I'm writing, which is fun. I've not written music properly really since I did the EP. And I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. But what I would like to do, I think, is ultimately use that Shorts tab as just a bit of a place to just, mess around with some music stuff. There's the way Shorts works as opposed to main channel videos, allows for more of that kind of stuff to happen. If we're thinking back to a week ago, series 1, I played guitar all the time, and then YouTube changed how they were doing copyright flagging, and more often than not those videos started to get flagged a lot more, which kind of meant that because I was playing guitar so much, I just kind of had to stop. I had to overdub it with me talking over it or whatever if I was including the footage, which was kind of sad. But the way that Shorts works, it lends itself a lot more to that kind of stuff. So I think ultimately I am gonna do some more stuff like that to mostly just have fun with music again, and have fun with just putting some what's the term? Putting my production skills back to the test, So yeah, that's what's happening on the music front. Ultimately, I am playing music again, and I'm writing music again, which, well, let's see how that goes. Disney need to stop remaking their animated classics in live action. It doesn't work. Absolutely agree. There are some movies that probably would benefit from a live action remake, but they're not remaking those movies. They're remaking the ones that we all know and love, and, don't benefit from being in live action. So many of the flaws that I've had with the live action movies is they've just felt so bland compared to their counterpart, because the counterpart is an animation and therefore could do whatever they wanted with it. Animation as a platform and a medium for creativity has no limits, Whereas live action, the biggest problem with they made with The Lion King, they made a National Geographic movie visually with all of the lines and all of the characters from The Lion King, but it didn't work because if you look back at The Lion King from 1994, the good one, they're so expressive as characters. They've got so much personality in just the way that they move, and the way that they, express emotions and all of that stuff, that you just don't get with photorealism. So ultimately, that I think that's the biggest problem that Disney have got with their live action remakes. They constantly remake the things that aren't going to work in live action ultimately. But hey, people keep going to see it, and I think The Lion King made over $1 billion the remake made over $1 billion, so of course we're going to get more. But also Disney has had so many flops with huge franchises recently, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, etc. They're effing up royally. They are indeed. I mean, we haven't had a new Star Wars movie since episode 9, I think. Yeah. We haven't had one since they wrapped up the Skywalker saga. They had two of the best Star Wars movies. Disney have had two of, in my opinion, the best Star Wars movies. And a few of the worst Star Wars movies as well. And at the same time, it's happening with their TV shows as well. And I will just continue this point. Kenobi could have been brilliant, but because it had to be so, close to the established canon, and they had to keep shoehorning in things that, ultimately, weren't... They couldn't add stakes to Kenobi. But Andor, we've only seen Cassian Andor show up in Rogue One previously. They can do whatever they want with him. And then ultimately they made Andor, which is possibly one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars media ever. Even if you don't like Star Wars, I would recommend watching Andor, because it as itself is a good TV show. It's really well made, it's really well paced, and the fact that they turned a character that, was a sort of secondary character in a secondary movie that, a lot of people sort of wrote off as just being a bit crap, which it wasn't. To do what they did with Andor is really impressive. And I think I'm going to rewatch Andor, because they've obviously delayed the second season of Andor because it's not finished yet. And rightfully so, the writers and actors are on strike. So, yeah. Right, that's taken us to 7 o'clock. Robot writes us a lot of shorts. Ali Ross says Andor was awesome. I say thank you very much to everyone who has joined. Like I've said, I don't necessarily have anything really in the works, but if I'm going to plug anything right now, go and listen to Grid Talk. Go and watch Grid Talk. There's a link in the description, next to 2 hearts that say, listen to my Formula 1 podcast. So yeah, I am now going to go and watch Jurassic Park at the cinema, and it's going to be fantastic. But I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, keep an eye out for the next one. Like I say, it might not necessarily be on a Wednesday, but I will try and give more than 20 hours notice, at the very least. But yeah, thanks everyone who's come along and joined this complete and nonsensical ramble. It was really nice to see, some familiar faces in the chat. And yeah, cool. Right. See you later.